I gripped the steering wheel tighter as another gust of wind threatened to push my car off the icy road. "She'll be so surprised," I whispered, glancing at the pristine cake box beside me. How could I have known that hours later, I'd be standing in a darkened hallway, hearing my own sister laugh about hoping I'd crash on the way? Sometimes the coldest storms aren't the ones outside your window, they're the ones waiting at what you thought was home. I've always been the one who tries too hard. The one who believes in family when family has long stopped believing in me. The morning started with an alarm at 4 a.m., my bedroom still dark as I packed the final items for my surprise trip. This will be worth it, I told myself, checking the weather up one last time. Severe snowstorm warning across 3 states, but I didn't care. My sister Caroline's engagement party was happening today, and despite receiving no reply to my messages, I was determined to be there. I carefully applied my makeup in the bathroom mirror, whispering to myself like a prayer, I'm doing this for Caroline because she's worth it. The bakery opened early just for me. "You're really driving 9 hours in this weather?" the baker asked, eyebrows raised as she handed me the specially ordered red velvet cake. I smiled with confidence I didn't entirely feel. "It's my sister's engagement party." The woman nodded, a look of admiration in her eyes that made me stand a little taller. "She must be very special." "She is," I replied, carefully taking the cake box. I didn't mention that Caroline hadn't returned my calls in weeks, or that the family group chat had gone silent whenever I asked about details. The first 3 hours on the road weren't bad, just light snow and empty highways. By hour 4, the windshield wipers could barely keep up with the falling snow. "Come on, Becca, you've driven through worse," I lied to myself, turning up the radio to drown out my doubt. My phone rang. It was my best friend, Kate. "Please tell me you're not actually driving to Vermont right now," she said, concern heavy in her voice. I chuckled, keeping my eyes fixed on the nearly invisible road. 9 hours, 1 red velvet cake, and a smile Caroline won't forget. Kate went quiet for a moment. "Rebecca, did anyone actually invite you?" The question stung more than I wanted to admit. "She's my sister, Kate. It's her engagement party. Do I need an invitation?" I could almost hear Kate choosing her words carefully. "Just call me when you get there, okay?" 5 hours in, I stopped at a gas station to refuel and stretch my legs. The attendant looked at me like I was insane when I mentioned my destination. "Lady, they're closing roads in another hour. Might want to find somewhere to wait this out." I smiled politely, paid for my gas, and got back on the road. The cake sat perfectly still in its box, secured with seatbelts like a precious passenger. "We're going to make it," I promised it. By the time I reached the Vermont state line, my knuckles were white from gripping the steering wheel. The GPS voice sounded almost apologetic. "Into 100 feet, turn right." I could barely see 2 feet ahead of me. When the estate finally came into view, it looked like something from a fairy tale. Warm golden lights wrapped around snow-covered trees, silver ribbons dancing in the wind. "We made it," I whispered to myself, relief flooding through my body. I checked my appearance in the rearview mirror, fixing my lipstick with trembling fingers. The valet raised an eyebrow when I stepped out of my snow-covered car. "Are you with the wedding catering?" he asked, his tone making me feel instantly small. I forced a smile. "No, I'm the bride's sister." He nodded without interest, taking my keys. No one greeted me in the foyer. No one rushed over with concerned questions about my dangerous drive. Just unfamiliar faces turning away when they caught my eye, whispers I couldn't quite hear. I clutched the cake box tighter as if it could shield me from the strange atmosphere. Then I saw her, Caroline, radiant in ivory satin, hair perfectly styled, laughing with a group of women I'd vaguely recognized. Her smile vanished the moment she spotted me. "You actually came," she said, her voice flat with disbelief. Not the reaction I'd rehearsed in my mind during those 9 hours on the road. I tried to keep my voice light, pretending I didn't notice her disappointment. 8 hours through heavy snow, of course I came. Surprise? I held out the cake box, but Caroline didn't move to take it. She didn't step closer either. "I didn't think you'd come with the weather and all." Behind her, one of the bridesmaids whispered loudly, "She's not on the guest list, right?" The words hit me like a physical blow. Caroline glanced at the woman, but said nothing to contradict her. I carefully placed the cake box on a nearby table, still forcing a smile. "Well, it's your special day." Caroline leaned toward her fiancé Ethan and walked away without another word. I stood there in my damp coat, suddenly aware of how out of place I was. People flowed around me like I was an inconvenient decoration that couldn't be moved. My mother would understand, I told myself, spotting her by the fireplace in a wide dress. She saw me approaching, set down her glass, and didn't meet my eyes. "Rebecca," she said softly, as if afraid someone might hear, "I didn't think you'd actually come." The words echoed Caroline so perfectly it couldn't be coincidence. "Why not?" I asked, struggling to sound calm. "I messaged you a week ago." No one replied, but I still hoped. She cut me off quickly. "Let's not make this complicated. Today is Caroline's day. Let's not turn it into something else." I gripped my purse strap so tightly my fingers hurt. "What do you mean?" My mother gave me a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I mean, you tend to draw a lot of attention. Let the event flow quietly. Don't become the center." Each word was like ice water down my spine. "I just drove almost 9 hours through snow to bring Caroline her favorite cake," I said, my voice barely holding steady. I thought that might mean something. My mother's eyes grew colder than the storm outside. "Rebecca, sometimes kindness is all about timing." I wandered through the hall like a ghost, soft just playing in the background while guests floated past me. No one offered me a drink. No one asked if I was cold. In the center of the room was a photo display of Caroline and Ethan walking in Central Park, Caroline holding tulips, Ethan proposing by the river. All perfect memories, and not a single one included me. I checked the seating chart at the reception table, scanning every name on ivory paper. Old college friends of Caroline. A woman our grandmother met twice at a charity gala. But not me. A staff member caught me looking. "Excuse me, can I help you?" I pointed to the seating map. "I'm the bride's sister. I don't see my name." She checked the list carefully. "Rebecca Collins?" "Yes." She bit her lip. "I'm sorry, maybe you're an unexpected guest?" "No, I'm family." The word family felt hollow in my mouth. I found an empty chair near the dessert table, but before I could sit, another staff member approached. "Sorry," he said gently but firmly, "that seat is for the DJ's assistant." I nodded, pressing my lips together. "I understand." Then I retreated to the dimmest corner of the room, where the lights faded and the laughter thinned. From there, I watched the slideshow on a giant screen, Caroline's life from childhood to now. Her with ribbons in her hair. Her winning the high school dance award. Graduating college. Traveling throughly. I, her sister, was missing from every single frame. Like I'd never existed in her life at all. I stepped into the coat room just to breathe. A narrow space with soft yellow lighting became my refuge from the storm of distant stares outside. On a small table was a tray of bridesmaid gifts, 10 tiny boxes, each tied with pink ribbon. I glanced at the names Julia, Erica, Claire, Hannah. Mine wasn't there. Not a mistake. They made sure of it. I sank into a velvet chair nearby, instinctively reaching for my phone. The screen lit up, no missed calls, no new messages. I opened my messaging app, scrolling for comfort, when I noticed a group chat I didn't remember joining: Caroline's dream team. The last message was from 3 hours ago. From Julia: "Everything's pretty imperfect, just like we planned." Above it were earlier texts. "Clear, she's definitely not coming. She hates crowds." Hannah: "Even better, the vibe will be lighter." Then I saw it, the one that broke me. "Caroline, she doesn't fit the image. I'll just say the list is full." Having her in the wedding photos would be awkward. Below was a cringing emoji and a shaking head GIF. I stared at the screen, each word carving itself into my chest. Caroline didn't just leave me out. She planned to leave me out. And the worst part was, I never suspected a thing. I left the group chat, hands trembling as I slid my phone back into my purse. While searching for an exit, I wandered into a narrow hallway between the kitchen and staff area. There, under dim yellow ceiling lights, I heard laughter from behind a cracked door. A voice so familiar it made me freeze. "Caroline. I still can't believe she actually drove all the way here. Who does that?" Then Hannah's voice: "A whole road trip just to bring what? A homemade cake that looks like it's from a discount store?" Laughter burst out. I held my breath, pressed against the wall. Caroline continued, her voice lower but no less cutting. "If she hadn't come, everything would have been perfect. I was hoping. The weather would keep her away," Hannah finished. Claire chimed in: "Maybe she would have spun out on the road or something. That way we'd have an excuse to be sad and still enjoy the peace." This time it wasn't just laughter. It was an eruption of cruelty, light and ruthless. The kind I'd heard my entire childhood, only back then, I didn't know who it was aimed at. Now I did. I stepped back, my hand reaching for the wall to steady myself. None of them thought I could hear. And that's what hurt the most. Because what people say behind your back, that's what they really mean. I returned to the main hall, numbness spreading through me. There was no reason to stay in a place where even breathing made my chest ache. I quietly slipped out through a side door near the kitchen. The cold wind whipped against my face, but the coldest thing wasn't the weather. It was the silence from the people I once called family. I sat in my car for a long time, engine off, mind racing. My phone lit up with a new message from my mother, Rebecca, "Don't make a scene." I stared at the text, mind blank. Above it, my earlier message still sat, "Mom, I'm on my way. Hope you'll all be surprised." Marked as read. No reply. I didn't respond. I had no energy left to explain or defend something that never should have needed explanation. I just wanted to be there for my sister. I didn't doctor home that night. I booked a room at a cheap motel 30 minutes away. My dress was wrinkled, makeup smeared after countless attempts not to cry. I didn't turn on the TV. Didn't check social media. I just lay there staring at the stained ceiling, letting the memory of the evening drain me one breath at a time. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. When I opened Instagram, the first post was from Caroline, a heavily filtered photo of her surrounded by bridesmaids, champagne glasses raised, twinkling lights behind them. The caption read, "A perfect night with all the people I love most." I wasn't in the photo. No tag, no mention, no thank you. Not a single trace that I had ever been there. The comments poured in, "Caroline, the most beautiful bride. Everything looks amazing. Wish I'd been invited." No one asked about me. No one wondered about the wedding cake, about the person who drove over 400 miles to show up, then vanished without a trace. A message from my cousin Julia appeared, "Rebecca, last night wasn't easy. But I hope you understand that party wasn't the place to ask for attention." Then another text from my mother in the family group to, "She's going through a rough patch. Let's be patient. Don't add fuel to the fire." I read it over and over, my brain struggling to comprehend. Rough patch? They were rewriting the story. A new version of Rebecca, unhinged, disruptive, embarrassing. No one mentioned what I'd heard behind that kitchen door. No one asked why I left in silence. No one asked if I was okay. A message from an old friend I hadn't heard from in years heard the engagement party got awkward. Caroline said, "You caused a scene," and disappeared. "You all right?" I didn't reply. Because I understood. I hadn't just been erased from the guest list. I'd been erased from the narrative. I opened my laptop, created a new folder, and titled it "The Truth." In it, I saved photos of the wedding cake receipt, the untouched cake box, the snow mine as covered driveway. I saved screenshots of the group chat between Caroline and her friends. I didn't know exactly why I did it, but maybe one day if someone ever asks, was it really that bad? I want to be able to say yes. These are the things they'll never tell you. They could erase me from the party. They could crop me out of the photos. But I wasn't going to let them define me with silence anymore. I spent all Sunday afternoon in my small Chicago apartment, soft light falling across the kitchen table where I laid out everything others had chosen to ignore. I opened Instagram. The first photo I posted was of the cake outdoors, snow all around it, the gold ribbon standing out against the white. The caption read, "Not everything we bring is appreciated. That doesn't mean it has no value." The second post was the receipt screenshot. The third was a photo from inside my car, windshield covered in snow, everything outside blurred white. I turned off the comments, not because I feared conflict, but because I didn't need permission to tell my story. Then I opened my email. Recipient's mom, Linda Collins, Caroline Collins. Subject, the wedding cake. I kept it brief. Attached is the receipt for the wedding cake I ordered, paid for, and brought on Saturday. The cake was never opened, never mentioned. I don't need thanks. I just want you to see the truth. Mom replied in less than 5 minutes, "Rebecca, this isn't helping. You're making things worse." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new message addressed to the PR department of Lockridge Financial, where Ethan worked. I attached 2 files. A screenshot of the family chat where my mother called me unstable. A recording from that night, the one where Caroline and her friends laughed about the idea of me getting into an accident. Subject, information that may be relevant to company image. No caption, no explanation. I left it for them to decide. When it was done, I closed my laptop and poured myself a glass of water, hands still shaking, not out of fear of their reaction, but because for the first time, I had pushed back. No yelling, no pleading to be included. Just the truth laid bare to see if they'd still pretend not to know. Hours later, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Rebecca, This is Lindsay from PR at Lockridge. Thank you for sharing the information. We are reviewing the content and will proceed according to company policy. I didn't know what would happen next, but the fact that they responded something my own family hadn't done was enough to tell me this time they couldn't bury it. That night, Caroline posted an Instagram story, a short video clip of flickering candles with text across the screen. There's always someone who can't stand to see you happy. No name, no tags. But everyone knew who it was about. I just smiled and closed my phone. I didn't need to reply with words. Because this time, they had written the play. And I was only the one who pulled back the curtain so the audience could see backstage. On Wednesday morning, while making coffee, a text came in from Monica, an old childhood friend who lived near Caroline. Did you hear? The family meet minus and Moko dinner got cancelled. Ethan said he needs to evaluate everything. I stood still in the kitchen. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel hurt. I just felt that the truth had finally knocked on the right door. The weekend brunch at Aunt Martha's house went on as planned, a little gathering to smooth things over, as Mom had put it. I was invited reluctantly, like a side dish people only served because the hotel already included it in the menu. I arrived 10 minutes late, not because of traffic, but because I wanted to see every face as I walked in. Caroline's at the center of the long table, wearing a cream knit dress. Ethan wasn't there. Mom offered a stiff smile. Aunt Martha let out a breath of relief. I nodded silently and took my assigned seat at the far end of the table, next to a vase of white tulips. Caroline spoke first, as always, her voice sweet with a hint of reflection. This past week has been an emotional journey. I think we've all seen where the strength of family truly lies. Heads nodded around the table. Everyone knew what she meant, and who she meant. I set my water glass down, wiped the rim with a napkin, and looked up. I'd like to say a few words too. Caroline paused. Rebecca, today isn't. Just 1 minute, I said, calm but firm. I took out my phone, opened the saved audio clip, and hit play. Caroline's voice rang out, clear, but I scolded she doesn't fit the image. I'll just say the list is full. Having her in the wedding photos would be awkward. Laughter followed. Then Julie's voice, maybe she'll spin out on the road. That way we'd have a reason to be sad in peace too. The room was silent except for their own words playing through the small speaker. Caroline turned pale. My mother set down her glass, her composure gone. Aunt Martha covered her mouth. I stopped the recording after 10 seconds. That's what I heard at Caroline's engagement party, I said, my voice oddly steady. I thought I came with a gift, with love. But I was just an inconvenience to be hidden. Caroline stood. Rebecca, that was a joke. A careless moment or a plan all along? No one answered. I looked straight at my mother, then at Aunt Martha. If I didn't have that recording, would any of you believe me? My mother said nothing, her eyes drifting away. Does Ethan know? A relative asked, clearly uneasy. Caroline swallowed. He needs time to think. I nodded. Good. He should know who he's marrying. I didn't wait for a response. I stood, gently pushed the chair back in, and looked around the table at the faces that once turned away at the party, now watching me like they were seeing me for the first time. As I walked out the door, Aunt Martha followed. She touched my arm and whispered, you didn't just stand up for yourself. You reminded this family that the truth still deserves a voice. I stepped into the bright morning sun. Above, the clouds were parting, revealing a sky so blue it almost hurt to look at. For the first time in years, I felt no need to explain myself. Because this time, they had said it all. A week passed with my phone completely silent. No apologies, no check my no sins. Just a few Instagram notifications from old friends liking the post of the wedding cake I had brought through the snowstorm. I wasn't angry anymore. I just felt empty, as if a long chapter had closed, no tragic ending. No need for resolution, just done. On Friday night, while folding laundry, my phone rang. The screen lit up with a familiar name, Caroline. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the decline button, then stopped. I set the phone on the table, hit accept, and put it on speaker. Rebecca, her voice was hoarse. I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but... Please. Just once, I said. Silence, then I was wrong. Caroline continued, each word sounding like it was fighting its way through icy water. My whole life, people compared me to you. You were independent, smart, never needed anyone. And I always had to work harder just to be seen. I leaned back in my chair, staring up at the ceiling. I was jealous of you, she admitted plainly. Even at my own engagement party, I felt scared. Scared of how Ethan looked at you when you walked in. Scared of people praising you for driving through a snowstorm. Scared that once again, I'd be the shadow. I closed my eyes, a familiar ache returning. But that doesn't excuse what I did, Caroline said, her voice cracking. It was selfish and cowardly. I left you off the guest list, laughed behind your back, then spun a story that made you the problem. I know, I replied. Nothing can undo that. Can you forgive me? She asked, barely above a whisper. I thought about it. I don't hate you, Caroline, I said honestly. But I can't go back to the way things were. Some relationships need to end for both sides to grow. Caroline didn't respond. We just sat in silence, breathing on opposite ends of a broken bridge. Then she said goodbye, not tearful, not dramatic, just an ending that arrived right on time. The next day I went to the local bakery, the same one where I had ordered the red velvet cake. What'll it be this time? The owner asked, smiling when she saw me. Just a small cake. Vanilla frosting, simple design, no message. Just sweet and honest. That evening I placed the cake in the center of my kitchen table and lit a small candle, not for an anniversary, just to mark a moment when I chose myself over trying to please anyone else. I poured a cup of hot tea, sliced a piece of cake, and sat by the window, watching light snow fall outside. In my hand was my phone, already open to a draft. After countless edits, I was finally ready to post the final message. To anyone who's ever felt like the extra in their own family story, you're not wrong. You're not too sensitive. You're just being real, and that has never been something to apologize for. I once walked through a snowstorm to bring the best of myself, and I left empty moguls-handed. But I'm no longer sorry, because now I know family isn't made by blood. It's built on mutual choice. And I've finally chosen me. I hit post, no waiting, no fear, just relief, like setting down a weight I'd carried for too long. The next morning I woke earlier than usual, not out of anxiety, not out of sadness, just because there was nothing to hide from anymore. The winter light slipped gently through the curtains, softer than I expected. I made coffee and stood by the kitchen window, looking out at the thin sheet of ice still clinging to the street. All morning, my inbox filled with messages from people who had once been silent when I needed to be seen. Now, when I no longer waited for anyone's approval, my voice had somehow helped others feel seen too. And I realized sometimes silence isn't peace. It's quieter asur. I had been afraid that if I spoke up, I'd be seen as the troublemaker, the too minus emotional daughter, the one who ruined the mood. But that so minus called peace was never meant for me. The moment I spoke, hit post, played the audio, sent the email, that's when I stopped being the victim in someone else's story. I became the one writing it over. Telling the truth doesn't make you bad. It sets you free. Not everyone will understand. Not everyone will applaud. Some family members quietly unfollowed me. But for the first time in my life, I didn't need them to. I didn't need anyone to confirm I was right to know I wasn't wrong. That afternoon I walked to the bakery, not to buy another cake, but to thank the owner for the quiet kindness she gave when my own family couldn't. She smiled and didn't ask questions, only said, "When you first came in, I had a feeling that cake wasn't just for celebration." I nodded. It was the last gift I brought to a door that had already closed. On the walk home, snow started to fall gently, steadily, not harsh, not bitter, just soft, like it was laying down a fresh layer of clean white over everything. I stopped in the middle of the street, tilted my face toward the sky, and thought not every storm comes to destroy. Some come only to clear the sky. And I had walked through a storm like that. That night I pulled out an old journal I had set aside years ago. I turned to the first page, where I had once written, "Maybe if I'm gentle enough, they'll let me stay." I smiled and gently crossed out that line with a blue ink pen, then wrote a new one just below it. No one has the right to keep or cast someone out if that person has chosen to walk forward in their own truth. I closed the journal, turned off the lights, and left a small candle burning quietly in the corner of the kitchen. And for the first time in a very long while, I slept deeply. No dreams, no jolts awake, no voices echoing in my mind. Only peace, not from forgetting, but from finally facing everything and letting go.